So welcome to the topic Combine Framework, and the topic is CombineLatest operator with the use case, sign-in use case. This is a use case to demonstrate the CombineLatest operator. And this screen, there is a lot of asynchronous events in this screen. One is when users start typing, and it emits the value, it emits the user text in the interval of 1 second, and to make a fetch a request to the network and get the list of users, and then password, and it emits the user text when user stopped typing for 1 second. So that we use the timer publisher, and so we combine these publishers, and the username and fetch API returns that username valid or not, and it publish the value, and password, it it, it publish the values. When password, when users start typing, and it publish the values and then checks whether user valid or not, and it publish that valid user or not. So we combine these two publishers and enable this sign in button, depends on that valid username and valid password. And this is when users start typing, and if we wait for 1 second, we use the timer publisher for to wait for 1 second, and then it publish this test, and then it checks against that users fetched from the server, and if it is invalid, it takes that, it sets invalid icon. If it is valid icon, it sets valid icon. So in the same way, 1 3 this password, when the user stopped waiting for 1 second, and this publisher, notification center publisher, on that event, it publish the values, and then checks the whether user is valid or not, and it emits that valid or not. And then when a user enter that valid, and it corresponding, the icon will be changed. So you combine these two publishers, username and password publisher, and if both are valid, it's activate, thus enable this sign in. So these are the four publishers we use this in sign in screen. One is the one future publisher, which publish that response of that users, and another is timer publisher to make a elapse between the key events for 1 second, to not to overwhelming the server. But in this case, we just I'm not validating when user typed in, but in this case is different. But the timer publisher we use to not to overwhelming request to the server, and the password publisher, and it published that password text when user stop typing for 1 second, that used for timer publisher. So this combine of this HTTP request response, and then username publisher, notification center publisher, and then this password publisher, we combine the values written by that, and then if it is both are valid, and sign in will be activated. So that is, first we combine these publishers. First is fetch API publisher, and this publisher is for when user text it change notification. Actually I want to okay, when I need to start the progress bar, and then when it is user started begin the editing the notification, and I want to start that, And so that is, so but actual publisher is, one is to make a request to the server, and that is done by the execute API. And this notification publisher, the event is on that event, text did change event, it keep on publishing username, then username enter on that username text field. So execute API, it make a request and it publish the response model, and it combine with the the username entered on under the user text field. You keep on publishing with the, when the time elapses of 1 second between key events, and it keep on publishing that username text. And then so we combine the combine latest operator, you combine this response model, and then this notification center, the publisher notification center publisher emission values, that is users and username. So when notification center keep on publishing, and this we transform that to users, it publish combine latest publish users along with the latest emitted values by the notification center publisher. So we check for it and then keep on publishing. When users start typing and wait for 1 second, start typing and wait for 1 second, it whenever it wait for 1 second, it keep on publishing, and it is keep on publishing this value whether that username is valid or not. So execute API, when we go through that, and it execute once and it publishes, and when user type on it, and it combine with that latest emission by the execute API with the username with which is latest emission from notification publisher, and then it returns that whether username is valid or not. So that, so this combine latest result type is to arise to any publisher, and the publisher type is a boolean. So execute API execute only once and it publish the response model, and that execute API is a future publisher, and the future publisher takes the closure, and the closure input is the promise. So in that promise, in this closure, we make a request to the network, and if it is error, we the promise, we execute that promise closure with a value failure and network error. If it is success, and then we decode that map to the JSON to the model, and that instance will be set it on the promise. It delivers, we promise the closure, the input to the closure is a success and model, so that this delivers that a model instance, otherwise network error instance. So this is only calls once and it publishes. It publishes when keep on publishing that username whenever the user enter the text, and then it combine both and returns this tuple, and we validate it and returns each time the true or false. So password publisher is a timer notification center publisher which notifies when the user keyed in on password text field, and that password, each time it publishes the password text, and it validates whether it is user valid or not, and returns that boolean true or false. And so these two publishers keep on publishing when user typed in either on user text field or password text field, and we combine these two publishers emitted values, and then we combine, and then it returns the tuple which when it is username start typing on username, it returns that boolean written by the publisher, and password publisher. When users start typing on password, and this will emits that password, and it combined with the latest emission by the username publisher. So both are valid and true. We will enable this sign in, and change the background color. If it is true, blue, and if it is true is false, it is a gray. And one more is, when it is a valid user, we change that icons in that left view of that text field. For that we are subscribed to that. These are another subscriber. We subscribe to those two publishers, and we subscribe to the API combine username the combine username publisher. When it is valid, we sets that state, and these are the states. This is the function for the setting left view, and we pass the state depending on whether it is valid or not, valid user or invalid user. If it is valid user, we text, and then we pass the state, and set icon. Different icons will be passed to that, and that is there is extension functions for this, and we define that extension function to set the left view and a right view, and that is we pass that image depends on the status of that user. If it is valid, we pass that valid password image, invalid image, and then we get that. First we create a icon view, and then for that image we assign this in passed in image, and then container view, UI view, and then add as a sub view to that, and then that will be a left view. So left view mode always visible. So same in progress bar, and that progress bar we change the state to the stop or start, and we take a progress bar view, and that add to the container view, and that container view will be assigned to the right view, and right view mode always. And then when it is state off, depends on state, and it's when it is stop, it stop animating, and when it is start animating. So these are the user states, user left view states, and normal, valid user, invalid user. We pass accordingly the state to this function so that it sets accordingly that icons. So that's it. So we combine, that's it. The simple asynchronous programming. It is a simple example of asynchronous programming. And initially we test, we sets that normal icons to both the username text field left view and password text field left view, and then we subscribe to that fetch publisher and subscribe to the password publisher, and sign in. It is combine these two publishers, and that is about the use case of sign in for this CombineLatest operator.